Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media. Many of you will remember that about two and a half years ago, Thomas and I started teaching you about false flags and also something called perception management. And over these last few years, we have identified these false flags, and you guys in the community have gotten really good at spotting them very, very quickly. But these are usually false flags that are run in the three-dimensional world. You know, you can see them. It's action that's taking place with people, like shootings and things like that. But what we want to do today is to help you see that about what we're seeing with this Jeffrey Epstein situation. Now, of course, it's just unfolding, so there's a lot of things that could change between the time that we talk these words and you listen to these words. But it's still a type of perception management. And when Thomas explained this to me, it really opened my eyes at seeing this at another level. Thomas, hello, help us learn another level of false flags.
Well, good. Betsy, as you know, we were talking with members of the conclave when this conversation came up, and it's not that I had anything to teach you. It's just that I used different words this time. So I was saying, breaking it down for people. Okay, take any case, and you go through stages. The stages can be anywhere from 6 to a dozen stages of perception management, where they basically, it's like a play. Okay, I could describe it a different way. It's a play, but you have to set the play. You have to have the script. You have to have the characters. You have to have the timing, so on and so forth. Same thing with perception management. No matter what it is, political propagandizing, yellow journalism, it doesn't matter. You have to first have what's called a schema. You have to have what it is you're going to do. You have to lay it out. You have to have your plan. And in that plan, let's take any false flag that you've seen on television, let's say, and you're not there, so you can't check it out. So what are they going to do? They're going to set up, and I gave this analogy, and this is, I think, the one that the conclave members and Betsy liked. Let's just take a shooting or any kind of really horrible thing like that. What do? They set up a perimeter. They put up the police tape, don't they? And who goes in and who goes out. Notice that many times the police don't go in. They're not allowed to go in. And notice that many times, and think about this.
The ambulances are outside
never
the
go
perimeter.
In. Mm-hmm. And they carry the people sometimes at long distances to get to an ambulance that if they had not put up that perimeter to keep people out, they would not have had that problem.
And after the San Bernardino false flag, they realized that there was another parameter that they had to start protecting, and that is what's going on in the air. So they put these helicopters in that keep you from having the cell service there. So what they have to do is, in a three-dimensional scenario, they're having to close off the perimeter to create this bubble inside. And so as Thomas is explaining, I went, well, wait a minute. In this Epstein case, what is the perimeter?
Mm-hmm. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because I hadn't brought that up. It's the eyes on the ground and in the air. And so what happened in San Bernardino, you saw 2 videos from 2 people's cameras. That's all. Why did that happen? Because the cell towers were intercepted by 2 planes that were in the air that were part of the Jade Helm 2015, what did they call it? They had an insidious name for it, but the point is that their experimentation was in San Bernardino, and that
controlling the human domain or something.
There we go. That's what it was called.
And we're going, wow, that's really evil.
Controlling the human domain, I think, was the name of it. And what they showed there was there were no videos of it. Well, look, there were many witnesses. The first thing people do is take a video of what they see when it's crazy. 2 of those came out; they were both fake.
But anyway,
what happened to all the rest?
But anyway,
the schema, you put up the perimeter,
yes,
and they now, anytime there is any shooting, do not allow helicopters to fly over, because that's where they were showing that they already had the police in place, the perimeter was already set up, that they could show if it was a live action camera that there were no people being put in any ambulances. No ambulances were leaving the scene of the crime where 60 people were shot. And the bodies were left there, and they were never taken out. And then they put up a little tent. And then they say, inside the perimeter,
yes,
the criminals, anyone going in there is a criminal. Okay? They're not even victims in there. And the real criminals, they're not in there. That's part of the plan. So, to Jeffrey Epstein, let's just take that. What's the perimeter? The perimeter is, well, first off, let me go through a couple of them. That's the schema. Then there's like, they have to use your social awareness, and they have to use some type of authority. So the second they put up a police tape, no one goes beyond it, do they? Not even the police. Not without permission. And someone shows up, in all cases every case where there's a false flag shooting, the FBI comes in before the local police and take control of the inside of that perimeter, and they are the criminals. Okay? We see it in every case. It's almost infallible. And then what do? They spoil the scene of the crime to make sure that by the time the local police get in, they can say, sorry, none of that evidence is any good that you just want to present because it's been spoiled because the scene of the crime was spoiled. We've seen that 1,000 times.
No, and just to remind everybody, that's what happened in San Bernardino. The FBI did not seal that off. It's supposed to be the crime scene, left it open for anybody to walk through. And so all of us out here who were dedicated followers of law and order or something like that went, you haven't protected the crime scene. But they didn't want to. Okay, now, so that's the physical parameter. Everybody gets it. Take us into the realm.
Wait. Then they get authority, but then they have to get mood. Now, the mood of any shooting is horrible. Everybody's terrified. They put you on edge. You get adrenaline rushes and cortisol and everything, and boom, boom, boom. Okay, they got you. They got everybody's eyes on the TV, but they're showing you what? Ambiguity. Number one thing in any false flag or any type of fake scenario, numerous stories. Look at every false flag. There were 3 shooters. There were 2 shooters. They were in black. They were not in black. They were all dressed in this. Okay, every single person has a different story. How is that even possible? They had so many stories at San Bernardino. They had 4, 5 or 6 different black SUVs who were shot up in different ways. Go back and look at the pictures. They've now changed them, but that's when we got involved. I said, well, show me the pictures. I looked at the pictures and this is fake. How do you know it's fake? These are all different SUVs, and notice one of them has a mark on the ground in paint, and the other one is by a white fence, and the other one has a trash can by it. Nobody puts their trash can that far away from a house. The trash can was where they were told to park the black vehicle, and they're like, so we looked at each one of them, and the schema was the same. We're going to shoot up 2 people, fakely, who are in a black vehicle. You know how many black vehicles had been brought into that state to cover that one day? Every single black SUV in practically the entire Southern California had been rented out for that day. The aerial photography shows that at certain places. Some I can't name because even saying them you get in trouble. But let's just say false flag. So just that's what you do. Schema. Above, around, everywhere. Look, you're on the outside. You're not on the inside. You're not a criminal. Criminals are on the inside. You're innocent. You're on the outside. Everyone who's going to walk away from their innocent is on the outside. They're not even in there. The shooters, they're never in there. They're either dead, they either shot them, they're an FBI asset, or they're not in there. And then when they catch them, they usually only catch them if they ran and they were FBI assets and they weren't fulfilling their mission to shoot themselves after they did these horrible things. So, but and again, usually they didn't shoot themselves. For instance, I'm going to name one, which I shouldn't even say out loud, but let's just say a shooter in one of these cases shot himself in the head, and they show the room, and there's no blood on the floor, but they show the police chalk around the body in detail, and there is not a speck of blood anywhere. So, and the guns they used, they all named them as different guns than were used. It's not possible. So, here's the deal, ambiguity. No one can figure it out because it's not going to hang on one detail, it's going to hang on 1,000 ambiguities. So you got schema, you got mood, you got authority, you got ambiguity, and then you got the most important thing of all. What is the impression that you get from it? Because that's what the schema is all about. The schema is trying to get to the impression. So what is the impression? So you can take that and put it on anything, whether it be anything. It doesn't matter. If you believe it's fake, if you need discernment, you check it to see if you are being subliminally controlled to believe a scenario with all those elements in it, to make sure that your mind is so confused you can't figure it out. But in the end, you accept it because of authority, because of mood, because of schema, because they showed the authority. You saw the police tape. You saw the police. The police can't all be in on it.
Okay.
Notice the police don't go inside the tape.
We all know about all those false flags. Can we please move into how this applies to what we're seeing with the Epstein stuff right now?
Okay, so who's on the inside of the tape with Epstein?
All the criminals.
Epstein ain't. Epstein got immunity. We know that from the unsealing. Okay, where's the ambiguity? We get 2 cases on Epstein at the same time coming forward. Most people don't even know much about Epstein except he had Lolita Express. They think there's 1 plane. Wrong. There were 10 planes. There's 1 pilot. Okay, there's the ambiguity. Horrifying ambiguity. They charged him in New York, okay? And it included human trafficking. They didn't charge him that in Florida. So in Florida on his island, Little St. James Island, he had all those tapes. So in his first deal, he got an immunity deal because he was already an FBI asset. That is in the unsealing of the documents recently. So it literally says, your plea deal is only good for for the 13 months you had to supposedly spend the night at a detention facility while you had sex with young girls during the day, aided by the police protecting you. Why? Because you're an FBI asset, CIA asset. He's not just FBI.
Can we walk
he's
that back?
CIA.
He wasn't having sex with that. He was raping children.
Correct.
Let's call it what it is.
Let's call it what it is.
Tired of all this
ruining children's lives.
Yes.
Many who are dead because of it.
Yes.
Okay.
So
he was a human trafficker.
When this child rapist did that, continue on.
Yes, because he already on his little St. James Island had Prince Andrew with the same girl that Bill Clinton was seen with many times.
And by the way, you know why these grown men rape little girls? Because they're embarrassed what's between their legs and they wouldn't want to show a mature woman.
That is true on the reports from these girls. We have hours of their tapes.
Yes.
Confessing.
And they describe what they saw.
These are men who are, what do they call it?
Well, let's not go there, but we all know what I'm saying.
They're trying to compensate.
Inadequate.
We'll call it
and they're
that.
using their inadequacies to rape little girls.
Correct. And it's rape. And he should put in jail. Now, I'll tell you the outcome. We can predict the outcome. It's very simple. We know what's going to happen to Jeffrey Epstein. That's not a problem. He's going to get the deal he's already pled. He's already pled a deal, okay? They didn't arrest him for a similar crime, which you can't get him for, so they created a different crime, but then they said it was a conspiracy. So now everyone's terrified because it includes Dershowitz and all of his lawyers, Ken Starr and all these people. No, they say it's just Trump. And so what do they say? Trump's friend, Jeffrey Epstein, Trump broke with Epstein in 1999 when the very girl, who we have her confession on tape, said she was a coat check girl at Mar-a-Lago, and Jeffrey came in and harassed her. And so Trump had a break with her and said, get out, never come back. And he was already a scumbag. Everybody knew that. And he already knew he was a pedophile. So he busted him first time he knew anything about it. 1999. Hasn't seen him, had anything to do with him since. That girl became the one who was with Prince Edward,
Andrew
and Clinton and all the others. She became their top girl. And so you can get the whole story. The story is so thick, it's like Nexium. It's worse because it was international blackmail of people on an island that Epstein owned, which had diplomatic immunity. One very important thing, there were 10 different planes, but some of the planes had numbers on the tail of the plane that said that it was a plane that had diplomatic immunity. We told you he had diplomatic immunity.
And I will say that we broke the researchers at AFI broke that flight manifesto down in an excellent graph, and I have it in the description box for those who'd like to look at it. Keep going. But
proving Bill Clinton lied.
Okay, yeah. And now one other thing too, but I had this thought when I saw his deal that he would have 5 years and he would name names. I'm going, oh, this is when they name all the criminals. This is what the FBI does. Get to name all the criminals, and you bring the criminals in, and the criminals tell you all their sins, and then they all get immunity, and nobody gets charged. So is this the method that they're going to do, where they're going to name all the names? Then these people go inside the circle where only the criminals go, and then someone like a Robert Mueller gives them blessings and sends them away. Your sins are forgiven.
Yeah. And the police stand there, and when the criminals walk out, they raise the tape for them, don't they?
Yes.
And they're always heroes. Whoever it is who comes out of there who's really a criminal is lauded as a hero. So yes, that's what we're going to see. Jeffrey Epstein's going to be a hero, and he may turn in some scumbags like Dershowitz and Ken Starr and others, especially Kevin Spacey and the other people who were on. Remember, when Bill Clinton came out and lied and said, I was only on the plane 4 times and it was for diplomatic reasons, that was his private plane, which they did call Lolita Express. There were 9 other planes that were used, but it was always the same pilot, and Bill was on 26 times. Those are flying beds. They're bedrooms. That's what they are. And these are children who were being trafficked. This is human trafficking.
High-flying pimp, isn't he?
High-flying pimp is what Epstein was. That's all he is. And he is the most disgusting person that I can think of. He's right there with Harvey Weinstein. Did I say his name right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And other such people. And Kevin Spacey, who now, how many people have to charge Spacey before his protection by the British monarchy doesn't get him charged? And is Harvey Weinstein, who's being protected by Alan Dershowitz, who's going to get him off for that crime, it looks like, is he going to get Jeffrey Epstein off? Jeffrey Epstein's already off. Jeffrey Epstein is not within the police tape. He's already in jail. He's already turned himself in. Why? He's getting a 5-year deal. Plus, he's going to get a sweet deal. It's going to be a parole after a certain period of time, and he'll have one of these sweet deals where he literally will be able to go have the girls delivered to him. Why? Because when they arrested him the first time, he had so many tapes of so many people that the blackmailing of the FBI was, the FBI
I want to wait a minute before
had
you
all
go
the tapes.
Okay, Thomas, I want you to tell people what the FBI is really doing. Like you told it to us a couple of hours ago. Just tell it like it is.
Since its founder, the FBI has been a blackmail organization.
And founding is back in the 1940s. Is this it?
No,
let's
you mean
go back.
One of our conclave.
Come on.
The research says
we need to get this out in the open.
That the research says clearly that the FBI was founded with the intent to be used within our domestic borders against citizens. Now, that's espionage, sabotage, and everything else that should be illegal. But remember, that's what the FBI does. Half of what they do is totally illegal to try to get illegals to do more illegal stuff so they can charge them to get somebody higher than them so their illegal activities can have a cover. And so they're the best at cover-ups, and that's what they've been doing. And we've seen that with Horowitz. It's nothing but a cover-up. We've seen that with Andrew McCabe's grand jury indictment. We've seen that Comey was given pure immunity on everything. He acted with complete impunity after we know that he was a leaker, a cheater, a liar, everything horrible, and yet no charges against Comey.
Well, that's because he has a higher calling. He answers to a higher calling. And when that title came out in his book, we were laughing, going, you are such a jerk. But now we're seeing, no, actually, the FBI, in the way that it was created, and I want you to go back to those creation days, actually sees itself as an organization that is over any of us and can do anything it wants. And all of the people in the FBI are exonerated for anything they do.
For instance, the FBI Counterintelligence Department. I say put anyone in the Counterintelligence Department in jail because they're breaking the law, because they can't use counterintelligence against U.S. citizens. Counterintelligence means you're lying, sabotage, infiltration. It means that you're using the old Jesuit methods of going in and basically saying you are immune from any crime that you do, period, before you do it, in the sake of trying to find crime. This is insanity.
And it's the FBI that is running all these false flags. Tell me how the FBI is running the Epstein false flag.
Well, first off, Comey, in just his short period in his office, we show 28 treasonous crimes that he conducted out of the FBI, thinking that the national security of the counterintelligence division of the FBI that formed with a small group from the counterintelligence department of the CIA. CIA means you can't work within this country unless you are right on the tail of someone 100% sure a spy from a foreign country that is our enemy, which there is none right now. We're actually not at war with anyone, except unless you're a terrorist, which you could be a terrorist in any form whatsoever. Therefore, everyone is a criminal. So CIA now acts within our borders, but they shouldn't, because the U.S. Patriot Act which changed its name to the U.S. Freedom Act, which should be thrown in the toilet. So, CIA counterintelligence, that's to lie to our enemies. The CIA means you're going after your enemies. Counterintelligence means, you intercepted some intelligence through the NSA, and now you have a counterintelligence action against an intelligence action against you. In other words, when you're attacked, you respond. Why would the FBI have such a division, and why would the Department of Justice have the National Security Division, which means that they're acting within our borders against our own citizens?
Oh, it's worse because the CIA is all wrapped up with the Brits and the Five Eyes.
Completely.
This is their infiltration of our government to spy on us. This is the Queen spying on us.
When the NSA wants to spy on citizens, they use one of the Five Eyes as an excuse to spy on our citizens. Just like Robert Hannigan from the GCHQ came over and personally oversaw the installing of the hardwire wiretapping of Trump Towers, which Admiral Rogers informed Trump of and has been found out to be true, and Admiral Rogers then resigned and demanded an audit of the FISA court and the use of NSA surveillance. So one person out of the Intelligence Committee stood up, Admiral Rogers, that was it. And that's the reason we say, he saw what was happening and he turned against them. So when you're using the excuse of national intelligence, you can even do things against a sitting president, according to these crazy people in the intelligence community. And I say, give them a test. And if they say that that's legal, they can't be in the intelligence community because that's not intelligence. That's called working against a sitting president who is your commander-in-chief. The entire intelligence community works for one person and only one person, the commander-in-chief. He could literally fire them. He can't fire their agencies completely, but he could fire each and every one of them. They all work for him, including Comey, including Mueller when he was the special counsel.
Including Christopher Wray.
Now, back to Epstein. Trump he went to a couple parties with him. Well, who didn't? He's a through
billionaire.
The biggest parties that there
were.
were.
To parties with other billionaires. Plus, think of all the people that have had their picture taken with Donald Trump. I mean, that doesn't mean that he endorses them or he's got a relationship with them.
In the pictures I've seen, he's with Ghislaine Maxwell, who is an ugly old thing, who Epstein said was his girlfriend, but she was actually the madam for, we know of, 120 American girls in just the first charge, and we don't know how many international girls. These were the girls he took to his island. These weren't just the common girls coming in to give him his massages every day, anywhere from 3 to any number that he could possibly have in a day, but at least 3 a day. 3 new girls a day. Count it. How many is that? That's how many he should be charged for. Please, girls, if you were accosted by him in any way, please come forward, and a bunch have.
Maybe he has erectile dysfunction, and it takes that many girls to help him along.
I don't care what it is. I think that whatever he has between his legs should be cut off, and that a rope should be put around his neck. But no, that's too quick. I think he should be tortured in some way.
We do not condone violence in any way unless it was in your statement.
All in my imagination.
Right.
You didn't let me finish my sentence.
Okay, because
in a dream.
This is Big Brother watching us here.
In a dream. I would like to see people who do the evil that Jeffrey Epstein has been accused of, which we know is not an accusation because of the first trial. The first trial, all those 40 of them, I believe it was, came out, and it was an open and shut case. But look at the plea deal. It says he was an FBI asset. Why FBI? Because then that would cover any of his domestic crimes. He could have said CIA, like they did with Stephen Halper or anybody else that they want to cover up. Like Christopher Steele, he was an FBI asset. Or Felix Sater, he was an FBI asset.
Get a grip, people. They take children up into the sky and they rape those children. And there's no laws that cover what's going on up in the sky.
No, that's an international free zone.
Right.
It's diplomatically...
They go and they take them and they rape them on his little island. Nobody can touch them there either.
When he was on the Lolita Express, he flew under diplomatic immunity. He carried an ex-president on his airplane. He also arranged for that ex-president to take 22 other flights that Bill Clinton has lied about. on other planes that were flown by Jeffrey Epstein's personal pilot, which we have shown you the proof of. And by the way, to explain those, anytime, as Betsy was saying, you see initials, that's somebody's name they're hiding. Okay? And if you see a cluster of them, it's probably a group of young girls. And if you see a GM among them, then it is definitely the madam and the young girls. And if you see Bill Clinton, you'll see that on the Lolita Express, the 4 times he's talking about, yes, he took his people, his security staff, but he went 26 times. And 5 of those times, which were extended trips on the non-Lolita airlines, I believe, he did not have his security staff with him because that was a very extensive trip, including some very, very popular Hollywood people. And what do? They simply fly from one location to the next to pick up the human trafficked children that they are raping in international airspace or on an international island owned through diplomatic immunity, also by Jeffrey Epstein.
And double duty, they're also taping and recording so that they can use that material for blackmail purposes.
So they thought Trump was within the police tape. He's not. Everyone thinks, see the mood, the impression. The last part is impression or persuasion. It's basically behavioral manipulation. And it's subliminal, so you don't even know what's going on. So what is the impression they're trying to make? Trump is guilty of rape, just like Epstein. Epstein's in jail. Trump should go to jail. There it is. There's the message. Now, what do we know would be true? Because we know who's doing this message, it's the opposite. Okay, who's not in that circle?
It's probably Fusion GPS running this operation.
Without
Perkins Coie.
A shadow of a doubt, they are using the $50 million for opposition research that Daniel Jones has, who was the ex-assistant to Dianne Feinstein, Dianne China-Stein, in the Senate Intelligence Committee, who jumped out and created a Penn Quarter Group after Fusion GPS was taken down. Mark Elias hasn't been taken down. He's Kamala Harris's lawyer. But anyway, so Perkins Coie is representing Kamala Harris, so she's the chosen one, okay, folks? Because they always go with the chosen one. He was also Obama's lawyer, Perkins Coie, and particularly Mark Elias, one of the most corrupt
I wonder if he's
lawyers
done
in the world.
opposition research on his client to find out that she's not black, but she's culturally appropriating the African American experience. She is an Indian, Caucasian, Jamaican whose ancestry owned hundreds of slaves, and it's even questionable her citizenship here in the United States. And is she an anchor baby? Miss Kamala Harris has a lot of problems. I wonder if Mr. Elias will be able to whitewash all that.
Her great-grandfather, Hamilton Brown, was a 100% Irish man who came over and enslaved hundreds and hundreds of slaves on 5 different plantations. And when slavery was outlawed by the British Commonwealth in 1833, he went to Ireland and basically took people who were starving to death, brought them there with promises, and turned them into Irish slaves. He was one of the leaders of the Irish slavery movement. You can't get any worse than that. And if you look at her ancestors, I could tell you a whole lot more. But the point is, who do you think had to send someone to Britain to get Kamala Harris's birth certificate? That's right, Betsy Ross, and you better not forget it.
That's right. Hey, but look, if she has a long family history of human trafficking, why would it be any different for her in this generation? Because we know that whole California area is just ripe with all this trafficking.
I'm going to point one small thing out to you, that if you have a conscience, you will probably cry. Every month or so, LA, San Diego, and San Francisco come through and they pay people over $100,000 a year to put on hazmat suits and to use special steam equipment to clean the defecation out of the areas where the homeless people are. And they surprise the homeless people, chase them out, don't let them take their things, take all that stuff, burn it, disinfect the whole area. Where did those people go? 50,000 people per city. Where did they go?
I bet Kamala Harris knows.
They're all human trafficked, or at least the majority of them. And we know the rat line. We've pointed it out. We pointed out the money that does it, the rogue CIA, how they did it, the Zodiac Killer, the whole thing. If you are a major player from California in the Democratic Party, you know exactly what we're talking about. You know that your husband, Dianne Feinstein, China Steen, owns Avid and ISIS Management and certain land projects where the houses just burn down because the Pacific Gas and Electric just has little accidents in those areas and they wipe out houses down to nothing where the metal melts into puddles. I don't understand any of that. But that land, belonged to Dianne Feinstein's husband and Nancy Pelosi's husband, and Maxine Waters had to buy into that.
You got a new name for Nancy.
Oh, Nasty Pelosi?
Yes.
Instead of Nancy Pelosi, because she's the nastiest person I've ever seen in politics.
What a nasty woman.
She's declared that Trump has been the apocalypse come since the moment before he was elected. Anyway, going on with Jeffrey Epstein. Who's inside the circle? Who's outside the circle? Who's not going to get prosecuted? Who are the real criminals? Yes, the police who don't turn in the people inside because they can see that it's fake. That's true, but they can't. Most of them have signed non-disclosure agreements, or they can't even come to the scene of the crime. Secondly, the Southern District of New York. Those are the criminals. Preet Bharara and 20 or 30 others were fired by Trump because they're so crooked, and he knew it. And the Southern District of New York is displayed on television by the series Billions. If you haven't seen it, it shows you the reality that they do whatever they want. It is nothing but a political machine, and all the big money comes down in New York, not Washington, D.C., New York. And so that district, 220 lawyers, what did they do? They appointed Comey's daughter as one of the 3 top lawyers on the case against Epstein. Why?
That's just an in-your-face to the American people. That's what that is.
There are so many conflicts of interest, I can't even go into them. But the point is that they are the criminals on the outside. So that when they went after Jeffrey Epstein and made it look like they arrested him coming back from a trip on a plane that wasn't his, that's just plain stupid now, isn't it? So why did they arrest him then? Because he was ready to go. He had had a nice long vacation before his time in jail. Because he's going to have to look like he's in jail during the whole time that they're going to accuse Trump of being the same rapist that he is, so that they can put Trump in jail simply on innuendo, because the impeachment attempts of the Crossfire Hurricane CIA counterintelligence attack against candidate Trump, President-elect Trump, and President Trump that turned into Robert Mueller witch hunt did not give impeachable evidence. And now the Congress can't come up with any impeachable evidence. And so they're desperate. So they have to throw Jeffrey Epstein under the bus. But Jeffrey Epstein must have recently done something very horrible. So horrible that they are going to throw him under the bus. That's what happened. Are they going to tell you that? No. This is what I'm talking about. Whatever he just did is more horrible than anything we've described. Now, they're going to use him to throw him under the bus because of association with Trump. They threw Michael Cohen, the most corrupt lawyer in New York City, who owns the second most taxi medallions in the city of New York. Holy Lord, that is the mafia as thick as it can be. A servant of the Russian mafia. Of course Trump worked with him. He was his corrupt lawyer. That's what he did. They're going to try to associate one of the 17 charges that has been pushed out of the Robert Mueller investigation, the majority of which went to the Southern District of New York. I don't know exactly how many, the majority of them though. And one of them is the charge of Michael Cohen that there was Federal Election Commission's irregularities with Trump supposedly paying Stormy Daniels $250,000 not to turn him in for having sex with him while
okay, you
he was
can't
married.
tell the whole story
That's
of the
nuts.
swamp every time we get on here.
That was David Brock. Everybody knows that. The pictures of him standing with the prostitutes saying, I'm going to offer $250 if you got a story that's believable. Hillary's friend has now come out, and it's now admitted that she also put up $220,000 for that project. They say they couldn't find anybody. Yes, they did. They found Stormy Daniels, and they found the girl who brought the rape charges against Trump and Epstein that was dropped later. She said her name was Jane Doe. Her name is Katie Johnson. She dropped it without prejudice because the number that she gave was the California headquarters of the Democratic National Committee. In other words, basically Hillary's campaign headquarters in California. And she was filing in New York. And she said she had no job, hadn't filed a tax return in her life, has never had a job, basically admitted to being a drug addict in one conversation. You can see pictures of her if you just simply Google Katie Johnson. You can also see the documents, which we have that we can show you, but everybody has them out on the internet. So, perception management, if you walk it backwards, you can analyze any situation and tell if it's true or not. Especially now that the mainstream media has stuck their neck out in their last-ditch attempt to go after Trump with everything they have. You don't know it, folks, but any minute they're going to release all this stuff I'm talking about to try to slam Trump, but they want to do it slowly before the election, over time, so the Jeffrey Epstein thing will take a long time. They got to milk this one because it's the last-ditch hope that they have. They tried Michael Cohen. They tried Manafort. They tried Felix Sater. They've tried everything, and nothing works because Trump didn't do anything wrong. So what you're seeing now is an absolute beautiful thing if, by chance, they make the mistake and Jeffrey Epstein goes down hard and takes Dershowitz and Ken Starr and Kevin Spacey and all the rest of them, and especially Ghislaine Maxwell, the madam, and the others that were involved in this horrifying raping, pedophilia rape.
So Bill Clinton is not just a rapist, he's a child rapist.
Oh, absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt.
So
the picture
y'all need to start adding the word child to that little statement we use out on the internet.
We already analyzed this and told you that when Trump appointed Alexander Acosta for the Department of Labor, there's going to be trouble later. Now, we said maybe he's willing to give up Acosta so that he can take down Epstein. We said it at that time, which was a long, long time ago. We also told you at that time that Epstein had to be, we said at the time, a CIA asset doing international blackmailing work, and that's the reason he got out of this. And there must be a bunch of Americans involved in it too. We know that because we've seen all the pictures.
So he's an FBI asset and he's doing work for the CIA?
He has to be because it's international.
Well,
the FBI is not supposed to have any jurisdiction unless it's an American that they're tracing out of this country.
So that means who is the FBI and the CIA working for? It always goes back to the crown.
The SCS is the crown in America working for the fake Justice Department, and particularly the fake judges, which are placed there to simply do the bidding and get their insider trading information, which look at their bank accounts of any judge that's been in a major federal court, appeals or otherwise. Look at their bank account. That's all you have to do. And that's not their offshore accounts. Just their bank accounts that they have to have access to. They can't have that money unless they were paid off. So this is just a common fact. Everybody knows this. Look at the biggest names in the Congress. Look at their bank accounts. How can Maxine Waters be a millionaire? How can Nancy Pelosi be a millionaire? It's not possible unless they were paid off. So sorry to have to say, the Epstein situation is going to get worse, look worse before it's better. That's the impression they're trying to give. Don't worry, Trump is innocent. Be absolutely assured of that, because we checked the age. We checked the age of this girl. They give her initials. I don't even want to go into that, but they checked the one that was with Prince Andrews and with Bill Clinton. And by her testimony now, and by what we know she said recently, she was underage at the time. So we have pictures of Prince Andrew with an underage girl and President Clinton with an underage girl. And she says that she had sex with both of them. So what we have here is some of the people on the inside of that tape better get nervous. And that's the reason we heard Bill's alibi just recently. And we'll probably be hearing an alibi from Prince Andrew soon, too.